I found the HOA president standing over my 3-month-old baby stroller with a water bottle in her hand. She had just injected tap water into my premature daughter's foreline because the medical equipment violated community standards. My baby was dying and this woman was smiling. Before watching full story, comment below from where you watching. Also like and subscribe for more stories. My name is Sarah, and this is the story of how I almost lost everything that mattered to me. It was supposed to be a fresh start. After years of saving, my husband Mark and I finally bought our dream home in Willowbrook Gardens, a quiet suburban neighborhood with tree-lined streets and perfectly manicured lawns. Our daughter Emma was born 3 months premature. She was so tiny when she came into this world, weighing barely 3 pounds. The doctors said she was a fighter, but she needed constant medical care. Emma had to stay connected to a portable 4-drip that delivered vital nutrients and medications directly into her bloodstream. Without it, she could face serious complications or worse. The day we moved into our new house, I was carrying Emma in her special carrier, the 4-bag hanging carefully beside her. She looked so peaceful, her tiny fingers wrapped around my thumb. Mark was unloading boxes when a woman in her 50s approached us. She had perfectly styled blonde hair and wore a crisp white blouse with pressed khakis. "Welcome to the neighborhood," she said with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "I'm Karen Mitchell, president of the Homeowners Association. We have very strict rules here about maintaining our community standards." I smiled back, trying to be friendly. "Hi, I'm Sarah. This is my husband Mark and our daughter Emma." Karen's eyes immediately focused on Emma's medical equipment. Her smile faded. "What's all that machinery? We can't have unsightly medical equipment visible from the street. It brings down property values." My heart sank. This is my daughter's life support system. She needs it to survive. "Well, you'll need to keep it inside. HOA rules clearly state no medical equipment can be visible from public areas. I'll be sending you the community guidelines." Karen turned and walked away without another word. Mark put his arm around me. "Don't worry about her. She's just being difficult. Emma's health is what matters." But I had a terrible feeling this was just the beginning. Over the next few weeks, Karen made our lives miserable. She would show up at our door almost daily, clipboard in hand, citing various HOA violations. The grass was too long. Our mailbox was the wrong shade of black. The welcome mat wasn't regulation size. But her obsession with Emma's medical equipment was relentless. Every time I took Emma outside for her doctor-recommended fresh air, Karen would appear like a vulture. "Mrs. Rodriguez, I've told you repeatedly about that equipment. It's an eyesore. Other residents are complaining. Karen, my baby needs this to live. Surely you can understand that. Rules are rules. If you can't follow them, maybe this neighborhood isn't right for your family." The stress was eating me alive. Emma's health was already fragile, and Karen's constant harassment was making everything worse. I started avoiding going outside, keeping Emma cooped up inside our house. But the pediatrician said fresh air and sunlight were crucial for her development. One afternoon, while Emma was sleeping in her stroller on our front porch, I went inside for just 2 minutes to get her bottle. When I came back, Karen was standing over my baby, examining the 4 equipment with a disapproving look. "Get away from my daughter!" I screamed, rushing to the stroller. Karen stepped back, but her expression was cold. "This ends now, Sarah. I'm calling an emergency HOA meeting. Either you comply with our rules, or we'll take legal action to have you removed from this community." That night I couldn't sleep. I held Emma close, watching her tiny chest rise and fall, listening to the soft whir of her medical equipment. How could anyone be so heartless toward an innocent baby? The HOA meeting was held in the community center. Nearly 50 residents packed into the small room. Karen stood at the front with her presentation board, pointing to photos she had taken of our house. "As you can see, the Rodriguez family has repeatedly violated our community standards. This medical equipment is unsightly and affects all our property values." An elderly man named Robert raised his hand. "Karen, we're talking about a sick baby here. Surely we can make an exception?" Karen's face hardened. "If we make exceptions for one family, where does it end? Pretty soon, our beautiful community will look like a medical facility parking lot." I stood up, my voice shaking. "My daughter was born 3 months early. This equipment keeps her alive. I'm not asking for special treatment. I'm asking for basic human compassion." A woman named Linda spoke up. "Sarah's right. We can't ask a mother to choose between her baby's health and living in this neighborhood." But Karen had supporters too. Several residents voiced concerns about property values and maintaining community standards. The room erupted in heated arguments. Finally, Karen called for a vote. All in favor of enforcing our existing rules without exception? My heart pounded as hands went up around the room. When the votes were counted, Karen's side won by just 3 votes. The motion passes, Karen announced triumphantly. The Rodriguez family has 30 days to comply or face legal action for removal from the community. I left that meeting feeling defeated and alone. How could people be so cruel to a sick baby? The next 3 weeks were torture. I tried everything to comply with Karen's demands while keeping Emma safe. I built a small canopy to hide the equipment. I rearranged our schedule to minimize time outside. But nothing was good enough for Karen. She started documenting everything with her phone, taking pictures and videos whenever she saw us. She would follow us to the mailbox, to the car, even to the pediatrician appointments. Her harassment became so intense that Emma's doctor noticed my stress levels affecting my milk production. "Sarah, you need to find a way to reduce this stress," Dr. Martinez warned. "Your anxiety is impacting Emma's feeding, and she's already struggling to gain weight." On a Tuesday morning, I was sitting on our front steps with Emma, trying to give her some vitamin D from the morning sun. Her 4 bag was carefully positioned behind the stroller, mostly hidden from view. Emma was having a good day, cooing softly and trying to grab at the colorful mobile hanging above her. That's when Karen appeared, marching across the street with her phone already recording. "This is the final straw, Sarah. I'm documenting this blatant violation for the legal team. Please, Karen. She needs the sunlight," the doctor said. I don't care what any doctor said. Rules are rules. Something inside me snapped. 3 months of harassment, sleepless nights, and watching my baby suffer because of this woman's heartlessness finally broke me. "You know what, Karen? You're a miserable person who gets pleasure from hurting a sick baby. What kind of monster does that make you?" Karen's face turned red with rage. "How dare you speak to me that way? I'm calling security to have you removed right now." But as she reached for her phone, something terrible happened. I had to step inside for just a moment to answer the phone. It was Emma's specialist with important test results. The call took maybe 3 minutes. When I came back outside, I found Karen standing directly over Emma's stroller. But this time was different. This time, Karen had her water bottle in her hand, and she was doing something to Emma's 4 line. "What are you doing?" I screamed, running toward them. Karen jumped back, but I could see liquid dripping from the 4 connection point. She had injected water into my baby's 4 line. "You crazy woman. What did you do to my baby?" "I was just trying to. I thought if I diluted whatever was in there, it would make the equipment unnecessary, and you'd finally follow the rules." I couldn't breathe. I couldn't think. The woman had just potentially killed my daughter out of petty neighborhood politics. Emma started crying, a weak, distressed sound that made my blood run cold. Her tiny body was rejecting whatever Karen had pumped into her system. "Call 911. Now." I screamed, scooping Emma up while trying to disconnect the contaminated 4 line. But Karen just stood there looking confused. "I was just trying to help enforce the rules. I didn't mean to." "You didn't mean to what? Kill my baby?" That's when Dr. Martinez appeared. He lived just 2 houses down and had heard the commotion. When he saw what was happening, his face went white. "Get her to my car immediately. We're going straight to the hospital." As we rushed to Dr. Martinez's car, Karen called after us, "Wait. I can explain to the HOA board. We can work something out." I turned back with fury I didn't know I possessed. "You stay away from my family. Do you hear me? Stay away." The emergency room was a blur of doctors, nurses, and machines. Emma was rushed into intensive care while I gave the medical team every detail about what Karen had done. "She injected tap water directly into the 4 line, Dr. Martinez explained to the ER physician. "We have no idea how much or what contaminants might have entered the baby's bloodstream." Emma's condition deteriorated rapidly. Her tiny body was fighting infection from the contaminated water. Her temperature spiked to dangerous levels. The machines monitoring her vital signs beeped frantically. Mark arrived at the hospital in a panic. When I told him what Karen had done, I thought he might punch a hole through the wall. "She what? She injected water into Emma's 4? Is she insane?" "Mark, I should have never left Emma alone even for a minute. This is my fault." "No." His voice was firm but gentle. "This is not your fault. This is the fault of a sick woman who values property prices over human life." We spent the next 48 hours not knowing if our daughter would survive. Emma's kidneys were struggling to filter the contaminated water. Her immune system, already weakened from being premature, was fighting multiple infections. I didn't leave her bedside. I sang to her, read to her, and prayed to every god I could think of. Mark brought me food and coffee, but I could barely eat. Every time one of the machines alarmed, my heart stopped. On the second night, Emma took a turn for the worse. Her oxygen levels dropped, and she had to be put on a ventilator. The doctors called it touch and go. That's when I made a promise to my tiny daughter. Baby girl, if you fight through this, Mommy will make sure that woman never hurts another child again. I promise you that. While Emma fought for her life, the police investigation began. Detective Johnson, a mother herself, was assigned to the case. When she heard what had happened, her professionalism cracked for just a moment. Ma'am, I want you to know that we're treating this as attempted murder. No one has the right to tamper with a child's medical equipment, regardless of their position in any organization. The detective interviewed neighbors, collected security camera footage, and built a comprehensive case. It turned out that several residents had been documenting Karen's increasingly erratic behavior over the past months. Linda, the neighbor who had supported us at the HOA meeting, came forward with recordings she had made of Karen's rants about getting rid of the medical equipment problem once and for all. I knew something was wrong with her, Linda told Detective Johnson. But I never imagined she would hurt a baby. Robert, the elderly man who had tried to defend us, revealed that Karen had been pressuring him to support a motion to forcibly remove our family from the community. She said the baby was bringing down everyone's property values and that desperate times called for desperate measures. Even some of Karen's former supporters were horrified when they learned what she had done. Mrs. Peterson, who lived across the street, broke down in tears during her interview. I voted with Karen because I was worried about my home value. I have grandchildren Emma's age. I can't believe I supported someone capable of hurting an innocent baby. On the fourth day, something miraculous happened. Emma's fever broke. Her oxygen levels stabilized. The doctors cautiously removed the ventilator, and she began breathing on her own again. When she opened her tiny eyes and looked at me, I broke down crying. Mark held both of us, tears streaming down his face. She's going to make it, Dr. Rodriguez said with a smile. Your little girl is tougher than she looks. Emma's recovery was slow but steady. It took 2 more weeks before she was strong enough to go home. During that time, the neighborhood had transformed. Word of what Karen had done spread like wildfire. The community was divided between those horrified by Karen's actions and those trying to defend her. But something beautiful emerged from the darkness. Neighbors we had never met started showing up at the hospital with food, flowers, and offers of help. A collection was started to help with Emma's medical bills. The local news picked up the story and donations poured in from across the city. Mrs. Chin, an elderly woman from 3 streets over, came to visit Emma every day. I lost a grandchild to complications from premature birth, she told me. Seeing Emma fight like this gives me hope. The entire pediatric ward fell in love with Emma. Nurses would stop by during their breaks just to hold her and sing lullabies. She became known as the Miracle Baby. Karen was arrested on charges of attempted murder, child endangerment, and assault. When the police came to her door, neighbors said she seemed genuinely surprised that her actions had consequences. I was just trying to enforce the community rules, she told officers. I didn't think a little water would hurt anyone. The prosecution, led by District Attorney Rebecca Torres, painted a picture of a woman whose obsession with control had escalated to dangerous levels. The defendant didn't just violate HOA rules, Torres argued in court. She attempted to murder a 3-month-old baby because medical equipment offended her aesthetic sensibilities. Karen's defense team tried to argue that she had mental health issues and didn't understand the severity of her actions. But the evidence was overwhelming. Security cameras had captured her approaching Emma's stroller with purpose and deliberation. Her own recorded rants about solving the medical equipment problem showed clear intent. Most damaging of all, she had researched online how much water it would take to neutralize 4 medications. The trial lasted 3 weeks. I testified about the months of harassment, the constant fear, and the moment I found Karen tampering with Emma's life support. Mark testified about the impact on our family and Emma's ongoing health challenges. But the most powerful testimony came from Dr. Martinez and the emergency room physicians. They explained in clinical detail how close Emma had come to death and the long-term health impacts she might face. If Mrs. Rodriguez had been inside for even 2 more minutes, Dr. Martinez testified, Emma would have died. The jury deliberated for less than 4 hours. When they returned with guilty verdicts on all charges, I felt a weight lift from my shoulders that I hadn't realized I was carrying. Karen was sentenced to 15 years in prison. As they led her away, she turned to me with tears in her eyes. I'm sorry, she whispered. I never meant to hurt Emma. But sorry wasn't enough. Sorry couldn't undo the trauma or erase the nightmares I still had about almost losing my daughter. The HOA dissolved within a month of Karen's arrest. The residents voted to form a new, more reasonable community organization focused on neighborhood safety rather than petty rule enforcement. Linda was elected as the first president of the new Willowbrook Neighbors Association. Her first official act was to pass a resolution protecting families with medical needs from discrimination. "We're a community," Linda announced at the first meeting, "and communities take care of their most vulnerable members." The change was remarkable. Neighbors who had once avoided us now stopped to check on Emma and ask how they could help. Children drew pictures for her and left them at our door. The mailman Tom always made sure to wave at Emma during his rounds. Mrs. Peterson, who had initially supported Karen, became one of our closest friends. She babysat Emma whenever we needed to run errands and spoiled her with homemade baby food and hand-knitted blankets. "I need to make up for my mistake," she told me one afternoon while Emma played in her lap. "I let fear cloud my judgment, and I almost cost this angel her life." Robert, the elderly man who had defended us from the beginning, started a neighborhood watch program focused on protecting families with young children or elderly residents. "We look out for each other here," he declared. "That's what real neighbors do." Emma grew stronger every day. The water contamination had caused some kidney damage, but her doctors were optimistic about her long-term prognosis. She was meeting all her developmental milestones and had the biggest, brightest smile I had ever seen. On her first birthday, the entire neighborhood threw a party. Mrs. Chun brought homemade dumplings. Linda organized games and decorations. Even Tom the mailman stopped by with a special delivery of birthday cards from his route. Emma sat in her high chair, clapping her hands as everyone sang, "Happy Birthday." She had grown into a happy, healthy toddler with curly brown hair and Mark's mischievous eyes. Looking at her, you would never know how close we came to losing her. "Look at our little fighter," Mark whispered, wiping away tears as Emma smeared birthday cake all over her face. But I couldn't forget. Every time I looked at Emma, I remembered that moment of finding Karen over her stroller. I remembered the terrifying ambulance ride and the days of not knowing if she would survive. Dr. Martinez noticed my ongoing anxiety during Emma's regular checkups. "Sarah, you saved Emma's life by getting her to the hospital so quickly. You can't carry the guilt of what that woman did." He was right, but trauma doesn't always listen to logic. I started seeing a therapist to work through my feelings of guilt, anger, and fear. It helped, but the nightmares persisted. 2 years after the incident, we received an unexpected visitor. Karen's daughter, Michelle, showed up at our door with tears in her eyes. "Mrs. Rodriguez, I know I have no right to ask this, but could I please see Emma?" I was hesitant, but something in Michelle's eyes reminded me of my own desperation during Emma's darkest moments. "I need to understand what my mother did," Michelle continued. "I need to see the beautiful child she almost destroyed because of her obsession with rules and control." Mark was skeptical, but we invited Michelle inside. When she saw Emma toddling around our living room, playing with her toys and babbling happily, Michelle broke down sobbing. "She's perfect," Michelle whispered. "How could anyone want to hurt something so precious?" Michelle told us about growing up with Karen as a mother. The constant criticism, the impossible standards, the way Karen valued appearances over people's feelings. "I moved across the country to escape her controlling nature," Michelle explained. "But I never imagined it would escalate to this. I'm so sorry for what she did to your family." Surprisingly, talking to Michelle helped me heal in ways therapy hadn't. Understanding Karen's background didn't excuse her actions, but it helped me process the senselessness of what had happened. "Your mother made her own choices," I told Michelle. "You're not responsible for her actions, just like I had to learn I wasn't responsible for not preventing them." Emma started preschool at 3 years old. She was bright, curious, and surprisingly social for a child who had faced so much medical trauma in her early life. Her teachers adored her, and she quickly made friends with all the other children. But even in this new chapter of our lives, the past still haunted us. Emma had to continue regular medical checkups to monitor the long-term effects of Karen's actions. Some days were better than others. During one particularly difficult appointment, when Emma had to undergo additional kidney function tests, she looked up at me with her big brown eyes and asked, "Mommy, why do I have to have so many doctor visits?" How do you explain to a 3-year-old that a stranger once tried to hurt her because of HOA rules? How do you make sense of something so senseless? "Remember how we always tell you that you're extra special?" I said, kneeling down to her level. "Well, sometimes special people need extra care to stay healthy and strong." Emma nodded seriously, then brightened. Like superheroes need their special suits? Exactly like that, baby girl. You're our little superhero. The test results came back better than expected. Emma's kidney function had improved significantly, and Dr. Martinez was optimistic about reducing the frequency of her medical monitoring. She's made a remarkable recovery, he told us. Children are incredibly resilient, but Emma is especially tough. 5 years after the incident, I was invited to speak at a conference for homeowners associations about the importance of compassion in community management. Standing at the podium, looking out at an audience of HOA board members from across the state, I felt nervous but determined. My daughter Emma was 3 months old when our neighbor attempted to murder her over HOA violations. I began. The room fell silent. I told them about Karen's escalating harassment, the meeting where residents voted to potentially remove our family, and the terrifying moment when I found Karen tampering with Emma's life support. Communities are supposed to protect their most vulnerable members, not target them, I concluded. Rules and property values mean nothing if we lose our humanity in enforcing them. The response was overwhelming. Several board members approached me afterward with tears in their eyes, sharing their own stories of times when they had prioritized rules over people. You've changed how I think about my role in our community, one woman told me. I'm going home to review our medical equipment policies immediately. That presentation led to speaking opportunities across the country. Mark and I started a foundation focused on protecting families with medical needs from housing discrimination. Emma, now a healthy, happy 5-year-old, often came with us to these events. She didn't fully understand why Mommy and Daddy traveled around talking to groups of adults, but she knew it was somehow connected to helping other children like her. On Emma's 6th birthday, we received a letter that none of us expected. It was from Karen, writing from prison. Dear Sarah, Mark, and Emma, I know I have no right to contact your family after what I did. I know that sorry will never be enough to undo the harm I caused. But I need you to know that not a day goes by that I don't think about what I almost took from the world. I've been in therapy for 3 years now, trying to understand how I became someone capable of hurting an innocent child. I know now that my obsession with control and rules was really about my own fear and insecurity. But understanding doesn't excuse what I did. I've seen Emma's pictures in the newspaper articles about your foundation work. She's beautiful and clearly thriving despite what I put her through. I'm grateful that my actions didn't prevent her from becoming the happy child she deserves to be. I don't expect or deserve your forgiveness. I just wanted you to know that Emma's strength saved my soul as much as her life. Seeing the love and determination of your family, even in your darkest moment, showed me what really matters in life. I will spend the rest of my life trying to make amends for what I did, even though I know it will never be enough. Karen Mitchell. Reading that letter brought up emotions I thought I had processed years ago. Anger, sadness, confusion, but also something unexpected. A tiny seed of pity for the broken woman who had almost destroyed our lives. Mark wanted to throw the letter away, but I kept it. Not because I forgave Karen, but because it represented how far we had all come from that terrible day. Emma is now 10 years old. She's in 4th grade, plays soccer, and wants to be a doctor when she grows up, to help other kids like me. She knows parts of her story but doesn't carry the weight of it the way Mark and I do. Sometimes I watch her running around the playground with her friends, her laughter ringing out clear and bright, and I can hardly believe we almost lost her. The little girl who was once so fragile that someone's cruelty nearly killed her is now a force of nature. Our neighborhood has become everything a community should be. When the Johnsons' elderly father moved in with them and needed wheelchair accessibility, neighbors organized work parties to build ramps. When the Martinez family welcomed premature twins, meal trains and babysitting schedules appeared without anyone having to ask. Emma has become something of a neighborhood mascot. She checks on elderly residents during her bike rides, helps younger children at the playground, and organizes lemonade stands for various charities. Her compassion amazes me every day. Mommy, she asked me recently, why was that lady so mean to me when I was little? I've dreaded this question for years, knowing that someday Emma would want to understand what happened to her. Some people get so focused on things that don't matter that they forget about things that do matter, I explained carefully. She thought rules were more important than people, and that made her do something very bad. Emma considered this seriously. But now you and Daddy help other families so no one else gets hurt, right? That's right, sweetheart. Then something good came from something bad, Emma concluded with the simple wisdom that children possess. That's what Mrs. Chen calls a miracle. She's right. Emma is our miracle. Not just because she survived, but because her strength and resilience taught an entire community what really matters. Love over rules. Compassion over control. People over property values. Every night when I tuck Emma into bed, I'm reminded of how close we came to losing everything that matters. But we didn't lose. We fought, we survived, and we built something beautiful from the ashes of our trauma. Karen Mitchell tried to destroy our family over HOA violations. Instead, she helped us discover just how strong love can be when it's tested by the worst humanity has to offer. Emma falls asleep each night surrounded by the love of a community that once tried to reject her but now can't imagine life without her bright spirit. And in the morning she'll wake up ready to make the world a little bit better, just by being exactly who she is. That's the real victory. Not the prison sentence or the legal vindication, but the fact that hatred and cruelty couldn't dim the light of one extraordinary little girl. Emma Rodriguez, the baby who was almost killed over property values, grew up to become exactly what the world needs more of: pure, unstoppable love. And that's a miracle worth fighting for.